And he says this, they would have swallowed us up alive in the burning anger. The waters would have engulfed us. A torrent would have overwhelmed us. Yes, the raging waters and the fury would have overwhelmed our very lives. He says they would have swallowed us up. They would have engulfed us. They would have overwhelmed us. The good news was that because God was on their side, they were not swallowed alive. They were not engulfed. They were not overwhelmed, and they did not perish. Now ask yourself the same question that they asked as they sung this song. What if the Lord had not been on your side? Where would you be right now? Go ahead and ask yourself that question. Where would you and I be right now if God had not been on our side? You see, thinking about the what ifs can help us to appreciate more of the what did happen. What if God had not been on your side when your enemies attacked you, but God protected you from the attacks? That's what did happen. How do I know that? Because you're sitting here right now. What if God had not been on your side when people came after your family, but God protected you and your family? And that's what did happen. How do we know that? Because your family is with you right now. What if God had not been on your side when you were overwhelmed with circumstances of life, but God protected you through them? That's what did happen. How do we know that? Because you're here right now.
That's right.
We have to learn to celebrate what happened, what did happen. Because many of us forget about the fact of what God has already done. Now, we're approaching Thanksgiving season, and we ought to give thanks tonight, remembering what God has already done for us. As a matter of fact, if we took a praise break and said, I want you to start listing out everything that God has done for you, we'd be here all night.
All night.
Because God has been good to us. In spite of what people say, in spite of what's going on around us, God has been good to us. And we ought to say, thank you, God. Because the truth be told, can I be honest with you tonight? Without you judging me, I didn't deserve it. But God blessed me anyhow. You didn't deserve it, but God blessed you anyhow. And we say, thank you, God, because you were on our side. And we celebrate you and we praise you tonight for what did happen. Because God, you were on our side. Aren't you glad about that? Yeah. I said, aren't you glad about that?
Yeah.
The last thing I want to point out to you, God being on your side means that God cares when you are hurt.
Yes.
Now I want to spend some time on this. We have any hurt people in here tonight? Have you ever been hurt? If you haven't, I'll raise my hands and my feet for you. But you've got to understand that when you are hurting and you're going through it, God is on your side. We see that in Psalm 56. The superscriptions at the beginning of Psalm 56 gives us some historical context. It says a psalm of David regarding the time the Philistines seized him at God. This was a time in David's life when King Saul was in pursuit to kill him because King Saul knew that David would replace him as king of Israel one day. And as a result of King Saul's pursuit of David, David fled to the Philistine territory of God. Because David understood that Saul was not crazy. Because he knew he was not going to pursue him in enemy territory. So David runs to God. He runs to the king Achish. King Achish welcomed him. However, there was a problem. Because the officers of King Achish had a problem with David. Because they had heard about David's reputation. And they knew that David was a mighty warrior. And David had defeated enemy after enemy after enemy because they understood what was said about David. Because they said, isn't this the one the people honor with dances, singing Saul has killed thousands and David 10,000? They knew that David was a warrior and the people of Israel thought very highly of him. So here he was in enemy territory. What was he doing there? So they detained David, but David pretended to be crazy. I'm not advocating this. I'm just telling the story. This is what David did. He pretended to be crazy, and as a result, through God's sovereignty, they let him go. During this time in David's life, I want you to understand something. David felt isolated. David was depressed. And David was fearful. So how does David respond when he felt isolated, depressed, and fearful? That's a good question. You guys are sharp tonight. I'm glad you asked. So let's answer that question. David offers an honest prayer to God, where he simply asks God for mercy. In his depression and isolation and fearful mindset, he says, God, I got to be honest with you. I'm simply asking you, God, for mercy. He says that in verse 1 of Psalm 56, where he says, Oh God, have mercy on me. Asking for mercy here means that David was asking for divine help. David was going to the one and only person who could help him in this particular moment. He understood that God could only provide the help that he needed. So he cries out, Oh God, have mercy on me. David needed God's help, and he needed it real fast. David tells us in this psalm why he needed mercy. We see it in verses 1, 2, 5, and 6 of Psalm 56. And they say this, Oh God, have mercy on me, for people are hounding me. My foes attack me all day long. I am constantly hounded by those who slander me, and many are boldly attacking me. They are always twisting what I say. They spend their days plotting to harm me. They come together to spy on me, watching my every step, eager to kill me. Say, Lord, they're hounding me, they're slandering me, they're twisting my words and what I say, they're plotting against me day and night, they spy on me, they're watching every step that I make instead of watching what they're doing. They're eager to take me out. The question I want to ask you today, what is your situation? What is your need for divine help today? Are you in a place of depression, isolation? Or you have situations or people that you're fearful of? Are you fearful of someone today? Are you facing enemies today? What is your need for help?